Hello everyone, good to see you here. In this lecture, we would be discussing about the organizational culture and the environmental constraints on the management. These are our learning outcomes, the managers, view of managers, the organizational culture, current organizational issues faced by the managers, and the environmental effect on the manager decisions. First, we would be discussing here the omnipotent view of management. Managers are directly responsible for an organization's success or failure. The quality of the organization is determined by the quality of its managers. Managers are held accountable for an organization's performance, yet it is difficult to attribute good or poor performance directly to their influence on the organization. In other words, omnipotent view of management is of the point of view uh, that managers are the key elements who are responsible for any organization's success or failure. Whatever the organization achieves is because of the managers, and whatever the organization loses is just because of the manager's decisions. Whereas, in a symbolic point of view of management, is much different than the omnipotent, or we can say opposite to the omnipotent view of management. In this, much of an organization's success or failure is due to the external forces, that is, outside of managers' control. The ability of managers to affect the outcomes is influenced and constrained by the external factors, such as the economy, customers, governmental policies, competitors, industry conditions, technology, and the actions of previous managers. Managers basically symbolize control and influence through their actions. These are the parameters of managerial discretion. Managerial discretion is the basic component which is influenced by the two factors, the organizational environment and the organizational culture. In organizational culture is a system of shared meaning and common beliefs held by the organizational members, that is, employees and management as well. It determines, in a larger degree, how they act towards each other. In other words, we can say the way we do things around here. The organizational culture basically portrays the values, symbols, rituals, myths, and practices. The implications of the organizational culture include the perception. That is, culture is a perception, and culture is shared among the employees. In other words, we can say the organizational culture is the practices, values that are shared, policies that are implemented, and the practices that have been through a longer period of time within that organization. In this exhibit, we can see dimensions of the organizational culture. Organizational culture might include the attention to detail, that is, the degree to which employees are expected to exhibit precision, analysis, and attention to the details of any component. Let's say, for example, the people orientation component of an organizational culture might include the degree to which management decisions take into account the effects of or effects on people in the organization. Basically, this dimension we can say is more towards employee oriented or more concerned about the people that are existing in the organization. Let's talk about the stability, the degree to which organizational decisions and actions emphasize maintaining the status quo. Say, for example, innovation and risk taking is an organizational cultural dimension in which the employees are encouraged to innovate and talk about the benefits of strong organizational culture. Strong organizational cultures create a strong employee commitment to the organization. The more strong the culture is, the more employees are committed. It aids in the recruitment and socialization of new employees. Depending on the strong culture of socialization, new employees are added which are like-minded and get socialized uh, more frequently or easily than other organization or culture. Similarly, fosters higher organizational performance and by instilling and promoting employee initiatives. Whereas this exhibit reveals the strong versus weak organizational culture. As we have discussed already, that a strong organizational culture is widely based on widely shared values, whereas the weak culture includes limited value sharing between the people, usually the top management. In strong cultures, culture conveys consistent messages about what's important, whereas in weak cultures, culture sends contradictory messages about what's important. Most of the employees can tell stories about company history, heroes, whereas in weak culture, employees have little knowledge of company history or heroes. Employees strongly identify with culture, whereas in weak cultures, employees have little identification with the culture. Similarly, strong connections between shared values and behaviors is a characteristic of a strong culture, whereas in weak cultures, little connections between shared values and behaviors exist in the organization. So, what organizational culture sources are? The sources of organizational culture are the organization's founder, that is the vision and mission. Since policies are made according to the vision and mission of the organization, so these policies are being implemented and overall practiced within the organization at a large level. Similarly, past practices of the organization are the best source of the organizations. The way things have been done before are usually passed on to the next generation and are being practiced over and over for a long period of time. And also the behavior of top management, that is, by rewarding what is important or beneficial for the organization and punishing what is not required or which is unwelcomed in the organizational culture is being punished by the top management. How employees learn culture, stories, narratives of significant events or actions of people that convey the spirit of the organization, rituals, repetitive sequences of activities that express and reinforce the values of organization over a period of time. Material symbols, physical assets, distinguishing the organization. That might include the even overall infrastructure of the organization. Language, acronyms and jargons of terms, phrases and words meaning specific to an organization. Language might be formal and as well as informal, so it might give a viewpoint to a visitor or customer or even a newcomer employee that the organization is informal or it might be formal. Similarly, the structure of the organization symbolizes what sort of organization it is and the practices that have been kept for a longer period of time, say, let's say, appreciating the best performer and expressing acknowledgement of the values that are being practiced or welcoming or the welcoming party of the newcomers. Stories, the narratives of significant events or actions of people that convey the spirit of the organization. So this is how the employees learn the culture. Now we can see here the important thing, how culture affects managers. Cultural constraints on managers are whatever manager actions the organization recognizes as proper or improper on its behalf. So this line typically talks about the managerial action and the reaction of the top management regarding the decision taken by the manager of the organization. It might be supported, acknowledged, and appreciated. The same action might be punished demotivated, and discouraged, depending on the way the top management wants the organization to behave, or the way should the manager behave. The overall strength or weakness of the organizational culture, or we can simply say, simple rule for getting ahead in an organization for managers is to find out what the organization rewards and just simply do those things. Moreover, the environmental uncertainty does also affect the environment, the managers. The extent to which managers have knowledge of and are able to predict the changes in their organization external environment is affected by the complexity of the environment, the number of components in the organization's external environment, the degree of change in the internal components, environmental components, how dynamic or stable the external environment is. So in this slide, in this slide, it is self-explanatory. That is, the external environment can also affect the discretion of managers by impacting it in terms of the components. The components could include the social factors. These are the external factors, and the political factors or the economic factors. These factors or components are the basic elements of an organization's external environment that might affect the manager's decision. Whereas in complexity of the environment talks about the collective effect of all these components of external environment on the organization. Whereas the degree of change in environment components is how dynamic or stable the external environment is. It means how economic factor or where the business exists, how is the economic conditions surrounding the organization. If the surrounding conditions of the environment or economic, let's say, then the decisions made by the managers are also influenced by those economic factors. So therefore, in other words, we can say whenever the managers are taking decisions, they do consider what exists outside the organization. We now know that external environment is important and might affect the organization. So what is the external environment? These are those factors and forces outside the organization that affect the organization's performance. That organizational performance might be based on the decisions made by the managers, influenced ultimately by the external factors. The components of the external environment include the specific environment, the external forces which are direct and immediately impacting the organization. Whereas the general environment, broad economic, social, cultural, political, legal, demographic, technology, and global conditions that may affect the organization's specific environment. We can take the COVID-19 as an example of immediate impact on the manager's decision or the organization itself, where the immediate decisions are taken by the management of the organization to shut down its operations and workings and think about the safety and health of its employees. Whereas in general environment, we can say tax policy, which are deducted from the profit of the organization, which can be which can impact the organization, overall organization, towards in a longer period of time. Managerial decisions affected by culture in terms of planning. Since we know the managers work on take decisions in terms of planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. So therefore, the environmental factors or cultural factors might affect to the degree of risk that plans should contain, or we can say the degree of environmental scanning in which management will engage. These are concerned with the planning. Whereas the degree to which department managers interact with each other, or we can say from organizing perspective, the degree to which the managers interact with each other pertains to organizing factor. while leading, the degree to which managers are concerned with the increasing employee job satisfaction or what leadership style are appropriate might affect uh, might be depending on the culture. That is, let's say if uh, or what and the leadership style, for instance, could also be affected by the culture. In power distance cultures, leadership style is more authoritative or dictatorship type, whereas in low power distance cultures, the leadership style is more democratic and friendly. Similarly, in the sector or company. Next is the stakeholders relationship. Who are these stakeholders? Any constituencies in the organization or group of people who elect the members in the legislative bodies. So, any constituencies in the organization's environment that are affected by the organization's decisions and actions. Why manager stakeholder relationship is important and why should it be managed? So, it can lead to improved organizational performance. It's the right thing to do given the interdependence of the organization and its external stakeholder. In this exhibit, we might have a good idea who are the stakeholders and why are these to be managed and about what stakeholders are we talking. The organizational stakeholders might include employees, customers, social and political action groups, competitors, government, media, suppliers, community, stakeholders itself, and the unions. So therefore, the stakeholders are a very important and key element of any organization that needs to be addressed by the managers, and the decisions affected by the cultures are therefore so important. So managing the stakeholders relationship is by identifying the organization's stakeholders, determine the particular interests and concerns of the stakeholders, decide how critical each stakeholder is to the organization, then the relationship can be managed, as well as by determining how to manage each individual external stakeholder relationship. So therefore, the relationship between the stakeholder can be. Here are some suggestions for managers to create a more customer responsive culture, as customers are being taken as important stakeholder of our organization. So hire service contact people, train customer service people continuously, socialize new service contact people, design customer service jobs, empower service contact